My father has now passed away. We never knew if our father loved us. We never knew if he was proud of our accomplishments or talents. And we didn't experience appropriately applied discipline. Mistakes seemed to be watched with cruel diligence. Corrections seem like rejection to a degree. Mistakes were humiliating because they were nearly always in public. But he was my father, and how would I expect my heavenly Father, Abba, Daddy God, to forgive all the detestable things I did in his sight if I could not forgive the very bad things my dad brought to the family unit? Proverbs 24:14 says, "He who withholds the rod of discipline hates his son, but he who loves him disciplines and trains him diligently and appropriately, with wisdom and love." Our Heavenly Father, Abba, Daddy God's correction is never rejection. In fact, it is proof of his love. His love for us far exceeds any earthly love we know, that we cannot begin to measure it. We are his inheritance. Psalm 94:14 says, "For the Lord will not abandon his people, nor will he abandon his inheritance." And the proof of his joy. Isaiah 65:19 says, "I will also rejoice in Jerusalem and be glad in my people, and there will no longer be heard in her the voice of weeping and the sound of crying." The training and discipline of our loving Heavenly Father, Abba Daddy God, not only prepares us for life here and now, but trains us for our eternity with him. As we come to know and trust him, we learn and seek eagerly his ways and laws. Our minds and wills learn to gracefully submit to his loving instructions and corrections. We must become like the lambs he gently leads, guides, and teaches, rather than the rebellious old ewes who constantly stray into their own paths and balk at the master's touch. His plans are to change us from glory to glory. 2 Corinthians 3:18 says, "And we all, with unveiled face, continually seeing as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are progressively being transformed into his image from one degree of glory to even more glory, which comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit." Each correction saves us more painful ones later. Keeping ourselves soft and pliable before him, humble and ready to be corrected, will help us to see the glorious picture of our ultimate destiny. My father did not spare the rod, and it was always inappropriately administered, in my eyes. Sometimes with Daddy God, we will not see through the painful times until we have crossed to the other side, but relying on him in faith as a little child prepares us for the greater glory to come. With every distressing occasion, I try to ask my Abba Daddy God, who truly loves me, what I can learn from it. I ask for his perspective because I have learned well that my perspective is very limited. I desire to walk out my destiny according to God's will, that which is good, acceptable, and perfect. Romans 12:2 says, "And do not be conformed to this world any longer with its superficial values and customs, but be transformed and progressively changed as you mature spiritually, by the renewing of your mind, focusing on godly values and ethical attitudes, so that you may prove for yourselves that the will of God, what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect in his plan and purpose for you. I know I cannot do that unless I change. And most of the time I won't change unless I am corrected. I've learned to glory in my weaknesses, because when I am weak and humble and teachable, I will be strong in the power of God's might. Joy in the loving discipline of Abba Daddy God will take me from glory to glory.